Got a big research project coming up. I have to write a thesis on white trucks. So I need some sort of resource. Great. I love these. I'm a books guy, so I like good books. And it's funny, I look at the old ones that people have thrown away or gotten rid of. Old junk. What the heck? Going back to the groove yard of forgotten favorites. Stacks of wax. Golly. Found this. Oh yeah. I am a huge Lionel Richie fan. Dating back to like Hello, that video where he had his own clay head dancing on the ceiling. This guy, Lionel. Oh yes, this takes me back to Little League. I actually never got a hit in 8 years of baseball. But I did get Mr. Hustle one year. That was, how did I hustle if I never actually left the batter's box? Good memories. My name is Brant. I'm really honored to be able to talk to you. There's two things you need to know about me before we get started. Number one, I have a neurological condition, and this is a strange thing to start off with, and I realize that. But I have a neurological condition where my eyes move, and so sometimes my head has to move so I can see stuff. And I've had this my whole life. And the funny thing about that is I grew up in this small town where everybody was into hunting and football. And I couldn't play football because of this. That's not good for football. And this is terrible for hunting. You just don't want this. So I didn't do that. So I played the flute and the marching band. I'm just kind of a different guy. I'm also, I have to tell you this, I'm on the autism spectrum too. I was diagnosed years ago, which makes me kind of different in how I come across. My wife likes it. She likes that I'm really honest. I'm too blunt sometimes, but I've tried to get better at that. But also she has helped me to relax, to stand the right way, because she says I stand like Data from Star Trek, like this, my natural. And I'm like, yeah, but that's cool, right? It's like, no. So she actually said what you're supposed to do, and I learned how to put people at ease. She's like, this does not put people at ease. It looks like you're gonna leave. And so what I'm supposed to do, she said, is to bend one knee like this and put my hand in my pocket like that, and then you kind of slump over. Then you guys like this. So this is just to put people at ease. So I hope this helps you as well. And I'm so honored that people would consider the idea in this book, which is counterintuitive, and it seems a little crazy. And at first, I didn't even believe it. I actually made a graphic. It looks like a team of highly skilled graphic artists made this, but actually I did it. It's a new idea processor. I put it up here. It's I charted with a flow chart how we normally process ideas, and you can see that there. I made it with I didn't use like an advanced CGI thing. It's actually a Windows Paint, which is an excellent option. It's 16 different colors available, and I used a few. So yeah, usually I want to be affirmed, and if I'm not, I'm upset about it. And this doesn't affirm everybody, because we all are been taught something, at least I was taught, that anger is sometimes awesome and sometimes it's terrible. Like there's non-righteous anger and there's righteous anger, right? I mean, that's what I grew up learning. Someone said that was actually in a business meeting, actually said, you know what, you can choose to be unoffendable. And it was a boss at this business meeting. I was like, can I? No, I shouldn't, because sometimes I'm supposed to be offended because there's righteous anger. I'm supposed to hold it. Like, I know we can get angry, but sometimes we're supposed to stay angry because we're supposed to stand up for what's right, and we need to be angry. And I know righteous anger is a good thing. Here's what's really interesting. There's a verse that a lot of people have memorized in order to justify their anger, and it's the same one, and I hear it all the time. But doesn't the Bible say, when you're angry, do not sin? So it's not sin, therefore we should be angry. Like, it isn't sin. Anger happens. But we're not told to hang on to it. We're not told that our anger is righteous. Just that verse. Let's look at this verse here. So this is the one that people refer to. It's Ephesians 4:26. When you are angry, do not sin. It does say that, but that's not even the whole verse. We have successfully memorized one half of a verse. Here's what the rest of the verse says if you keep going with it. But no one wants to remember this part. When you're angry, do not sin, comma, and be sure to stop being angry by the end of the day. It's supposed to get rid of it. There is no, and this was what was shocking to me when I was looking in the Bible, like, how long are we supposed to stay righteously angry? Like 3 weeks, a month, forever? When does that retire? When someone apologizes? Like when do I get to let this go? We're supposed to let it go now, like as quickly as possible. There is no righteous anger in the Bible for humans. It doesn't exist. I thought it had to be in there somewhere. It doesn't. The Bible's very consistent about this, but what we do, unfortunately, is try to justify our anger and conflate it with God's anger. Because God's anger is righteous. There is righteous anger in the Bible. It's just God's. So when people are saying, oh yeah, but didn't Jesus go in the temple? Didn't he get angry? Yes, he did. Yes, he did. My friend Sherry has a saying though. She says, honey, you're not Jesus in that story. You're the money changers. It's true. I even illustrated it beautifully back here. It's true. He's sinless. We're not. Like, that changes everything. He's entitled to vengeance too because he's God. He can be trusted with it. We can't. There's never a point in the Bible where it says it's good for humans to hang on to anger, ever. What we're supposed to do is something very different, very radical, very countercultural. We're supposed to forgive people. That's it. And you can't say, I'm forgiving you, but I'm staying angry. It doesn't make any sense. This is the very essence of forgiveness, is actually saying, I'm giving up my right to anger. You can do this whether people have apologized or not. In fact, you have to, or it'll kill you. We'll talk more about that in a later session, about just the physiological effects of believing in righteous anger, that we should stay angry. It's a mistake. This is actually, I think too, when we actually practice this, like I have to forgive everybody every day I encounter with. I know people are going to let me down. I know people are going to be what they are, but I have to decide at the beginning of the day, I'm going to practice a lifestyle of forgiveness. This is what I'm going to do. It changes everything. And you know what it does? It forces you every day to realize how good God has been to you and to me, to actually let this stuff go. Fascinating thing that we do with this, though, we justify our anger however we can. Look at this verse again. When you're angry, do not sin, and be sure to stop being angry by the end of the day. So get rid of it before the end of the day. This is the Message version of it. I actually like the Message, generally speaking, version, but Eugene Peterson does this with this verse. He translates it, go ahead and be angry. You do well to be angry, but don't use your anger as fuel for revenge. These things don't match. Like this is how we normally think of it. Like you can say, no, be angry, just don't X or Y. Like, but that's not what the Bible actually says. It tells us to get rid of our anger over and over and over by the end of the day. And anger is always in the list. Have you noticed? It's always in the list of bad stuff. It's like bitterness, anger, that sort of stuff. It's never like in the fruit of the Spirit. You think people have elevated almost to that level. They think it's love, joy, peace, anger, goodness, faith, like whatever. No, it's not. So here's another thing too, because some people will be like, are you telling me this can't be right? Are you telling me my anger can't be in the service of producing like God's righteousness in the world? Like, I'm not telling you that. But James 1:20 is telling you that. Point blank. Point blank. And we still are like, no, the world needs me to be angry. No, the world needs you to take action, not get angry. Your anger doesn't do anybody any good. In fact, it clouds your judgment. What we actually need are people who actually do things, motivated not by anger, but by love. You can defend the vulnerable. You can defend the innocent out of love. We'll talk more about how to handle injustice and where anger fits into that and forgiveness in another context a little bit later on. Here's another mistake that we can make too. We can say, oh, okay, so I'm supposed to forgive everybody. So does that mean I should stay? Are you saying I should stay in an abusive relationship, or I have to be friends with everybody no matter what they do to me? Like, no, I'm not. No. Actually, you know what? Forgiveness allows you to leave that relationship, Because if you don't forgive somebody, you're staying in relationship with them in your head for the rest of your life. This is a way to end it. It's not to say we have to be reconciled as friends, or we have to stay in the same home, or I have to put up with this. Forgiveness is an act between you and God. It is not even because a person deserves it. You don't forgive people because they deserve it. You forgive people because you didn't deserve it. Neither did I. That's the basis for our forgiveness. It's what God's done for us. And when I realize that, that's what's helped me. Like, think about all the things God has forgiven me for, and I get upset at people on the road. Like, it's so funny how sensitive I am about everybody else's sin. And usually that's what we're supposed to be angry about, is other people's sin. Like, what about your own? But I believe in this Calvary thing, and anybody who's a follower of Jesus does too, where you realize God took out his wrath on himself. And that is a wonderfully freeing thing, and allows me to forgive other people. They have articles about how to handle anger, and it's fascinating because they don't mention, out of all the suggestions about here's what you should do, it's like center yourself, meditate, or like go scream somewhere. There's actually, it's called a mom scream. Have you seen this? It's a phenomenon right now in America where moms will get together and just go yell and scream in a park out of anger together because they don't know what else to do with it. Forgiveness is so much better. It's really it's hard work though. Forgiveness is really hard. It's very difficult. It's easier to rent a rage room. Have you seen this? Rage rooms, you pay like $10, get to go in for 15 minutes, and you actually get a baseball bat and walk in and start smashing stuff. It's supposed to help. It is fun. I smash this stuff, so I will say it was fun, but I don't think ultimately that's how you want to live your life. I have to go smash some things now. By the way, I love what Dallas Willard said about forgiveness. He actually said, yes, forgiveness is really, really hard, and it is. It's so hard. That's why we don't want to do it. Because they're wrong. I've been wronged. I mean, they're wrong. It's not saying, oh, everything's fine, everything's right, whatever. No. It's the exact opposite of that. It's acknowledging there has been a wrong. Now I have to do the work as a follower of Jesus, as an instrument of forgiveness in the world. This is discipleship, by the way. I think this is the core part of discipleship. Other stuff is details, honestly. This is it. And Jesus even said as much. Like, do you want to be forgiven? Forgive others. You have to love your enemies. You can't harbor self-righteous anger when you're a sinner yourself. He even told a story. It's called the story of the unmerciful servant. There's a guy who owes the king a lot of money, and the king forgives him, and that other guy turns around to somebody who owes him just a little bit and will not forgive, and the king is very upset about it. That's the parable. Like, some people think, see, that shows you should get angry because, no. You're not the king. You're the unmerciful servant. You've been forgiven all this stuff. Me too. So for me to turn around and not forgive, like, that doesn't work. This is not how the kingdom of God works. But Dallas Willard said, as difficult as forgiveness is, try unforgiveness. It's worse. You want to talk about a life of unforgiveness and how difficult that is? Jesus is actually giving us a better, easier life by saying we should forgive people. Yes, it's hard, but it's way better than living your entire life thinking you're supposed to be angry at everybody for what they've done. It's a way better way to live. One thing that strikes me about how awesome Jesus is, you know this, for some reason I didn't learn it till I was an adult, but the numbers in the Bible, like the verses and chapters, those numbers aren't original to the text. We added all that, like, fairly recently. I didn't even know that. I thought when Jesus was talking, he said something like, whoever believes in him will have eternal life. 17. For he did not come into the world. Like, that's not how it goes. The thing about this is some of those chapters and those numbers are placed in the worst places. Like, there's I call it the worst chapter break in the Bible. I hope it's okay to say that. There are a couple stories. For example, there's two stories in the Bible. One, you've heard Jesus said, do not be troubled. Don't let your heart be troubled. We're very familiar with that. That's a saying of Jesus. There's another story where he's with Peter and the disciples. It's the Last Supper. And he actually says to them, where I'm going, you can't go. Peter's like, yes, I am. I totally am. No, you're not. Yes, I am. You're going to betray me 3 times before the night's over. End of the story. But there's a big 14 there. Those are the same story. A friend of mine pointed that out. I was like, oh my goodness, God is so good to us. Because what happens is he's talking to Peter and he says, you're going to betray me. Like, that's his best friend. You're going to betray me tonight. But don't let your heart be troubled. Where I'm going, I'm going to prepare a place for you. And in my Father's house there are many rooms. Like, do you realize what he's doing? As bad as I am, we can all betray God in our ways. But for him to say that tonight, you haven't even done it yet, you're going to, but don't let your heart be troubled. Like, do you realize how good God is to us? And can I extend this to other people? This is the basis for forgiveness. Look at what God has done for me. Can I extend this to other people? And if I don't, maybe I didn't understand Jesus in the first place. This changes everything. This will make your life better. That's something I would love for you, even as you're watching this, like this is the first session. We'll talk more about why this is such a great way to live your life and how to actually do this and some of the questions that people ask. This is so great. This is following Jesus, and we can do it right now. You don't need to know anymore. I mean, right now, you can actually forgive people. So this is the challenge I want to leave you with before we do our next session, but it's something that you can start right now, is actually saying at the beginning of the day, I'm going to forgive people. Stuff's going to happen. But this is what it means to actually follow Jesus, and I'm going to do it. So that's something you can talk about with friends, break it down, see what they think about it, and we will see you next time.
Oh, that's cool, but hey, Jim, do you have any water buffalo heads, though? Like any giant water buffalo heads? Well, I'm gonna do it again, sorry.
Yep.
Start over.
Yep.
Oh yeah, this takes me back. I don't want to say, oh yeah, what is that, Flavor Flav reference? Hello, is it me you're looking for? Don't even get me in this. I can see it in your smile. Lionel, R.I.P. man.